35 years is a relative blip in the history of American-Iranian relations, which has been extraordinarily positive. In fact, that's probably why the surveys that have been show a residual positive attitude towards the United States, higher than the surrounding nations towards America and Americans. It really is somewhat ironic, given the fact that the Congress is so hostile, and of course, I think we all understand it's a very short-term, politically inspired position on the part of a number of them. But so my request would be to look into the future, understanding that every nation in the Middle East is in a politically, possibly economically unsustainable position. Possible exception of Oman, maybe Morocco, but for the most part, none of this can last where we are today. So where do you think we might be 10 years from now? What's your best prognosis? And if you want, you can just tell us where you think we should be, but really, this can't last where we are today. Where are we likely to be tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Congressman. And Congressman Moran actually helped pass legislation to help lift those sanctions on communications technology for Iranians, and has been a great friend of the
And
Iranian
Howard Berman was a great help in that, I have to say.
Absolutely. In 10 years, since we're here to talk about the nuclear deal, we're looking at a deal that is going to last 10 to 15 years. And then, while the inspections and all, those will stay in place, the restrictions on Iran's nuclear program will go away, the limitations. And so I think that this deal is really a challenge to, in the next 10 to 15 years, start to redefine the relationship between the U.S. and Iran. In order for this thing to actually stick, in order for it to actually fulfill the promise that many of us see in this diplomatic endeavor, there does have to be a change in the relationship between the U.S. and Iran, and there has to be an integration of interests between the countries. I would hope that, going to the conversation about the role of the Saudis and this sort of regional balance of power, I would hope that there is some effort immediately after this deal gets done, if it gets done, to start figuring out positive-sum approaches to the region. How do we have the actors in the region actually cooperating with one another so that every move is not I win, you lose, but there's actually things that countries can do together to, first let's start talking about putting together some of the enormous ruptures in the area. Whether it's Syria or Yemen or Iraq, how do you actually get the parties to the table to start talking about mutual interests and resolving these issues? And then, there are also probably other areas for collaboration to be explored. But I really think that the onus is on everybody who supports this deal to figure out over these next 10 years, how do we do that? And how do we ensure that at the end of this deal, we're in a different place than we are today, where we don't have to worry about the next diplomatic, disaster and trying to put Band-Aids over the situation.
Do you want to add something, Jim?
This prediction is tough. My record of prediction on Iran is terrible. Everything. When we got out of Tehran left Tehran in 1981, I thought 5 years, 10 years down the line, tempers would cool. We would at least be able to talk to each other. We wouldn't be friends, but we could talk to each other. Well, I was wrong then.
There was Iran-Contra.
Pardon?
There was Iran-Contra. Let's not forget that. That was
yeah, but if
after.
that's the way we're going to do it, that's really not. Well, I won't. That also connects to the Naval Academy, by the way, Iran-Contra. But I won't get into that. Won't get into that part of it. But we didn't do it. So But here's what I would say. One is, there's a dynamic I think there's a dynamic going on inside Iran that has nothing to do with us, but that will affect the relationship, and that is this growing distance between the state and the society. The society is progressive, it's active, it's creative, it's savvy, it's well-educated, particularly the women. I mean, if you look at things that are coming out of Iran, what people are doing in Iran, and then the state, what can I say?
It's just the opposite.
It's just the opposite. It's rigid. It's inflexible. It's afraid. It's afraid. It overreacts. I don't know how long that situation can last. I don't think it can. Is it going to change tomorrow? Probably not. Probably not. As much as maybe I would like to see that, and many of my Iranian friends would like to see that. But over 5-10 years, I don't think the situation as is today is tenable. I think there's a change going on. Now, we ought to stay out of it, because when we start mucking around in Iranian internal politics, we usually get it wrong. Iran-Contra is a good example of that. Is a good example of that. But it will affect us, and will affect our relationship. So I think that change is coming. But when and how, I'm not sure.